Oh my God. Welcome to the pre-show. That's my child upstairs, by the way. My 10-year-old daughter. Oh my God, Dad. Welcome to the pre-show, folks. We're just getting set up. We got 4.5 minutes of fun time to kill before we go live on air. In a sense, we're already live on air because we're on YouTube and we're on the live streams over on Facebook. But we don't go live on the radio station until 4 minutes and 25 seconds after the top of the hour. Hey, Grumpy Stack. Daniel Ondra, good to see you, brother. Remeldian, good to see you, too. How's everybody doing? Uncle Dave Potter, he's in the room. Arlene Gantz, sorry. Don't have my glasses on. I know what it says, and then you know how the brain does. When you need glasses for certain things, and then your brain fills in because you think you know what you're reading. So, Uncle Dave. So good to see you here, Arlene. Let's see. Field Guy I know is here. He was here darn early today, and if he doesn't fall asleep, he'll be here for the show. Roger Rabbit is here. Good to see you, Roger. I do have a little change up in the schedule tonight. Hey, Amanda from Australia. That was almost an Australian accent. Australia. I love your accent, by the way. I actually have is it my phone or my Siri on my computer that set it? No, it's not Siri on my computer. I don't think. Let's find out. Hey, Siri, do you speak in an Australian accent?
I don't have an answer for that. Is there something else I can help with?
Where are you from?
Like it says on the box. I was designed by Apple in California.
Okay. Can you say Bondo Beach for me? Hey, Siri. Can you say Bondo Beach for me?
I don't have an answer for that. Is there something else I can help with?
Where is Bondo Beach?
Here's what I found.
She's not going to say it, is she? Oh, it's not Bando. No, what is the big beach in Australia? See, she's got an Australian accent. It's kind of cool, huh? So we got about 1.5 minutes left before we go live. Oh, I got to start the stream up here. Boom. Stream is started. I have to bring the sound down for that. Otherwise, I get that feedback. Bondi Beach. Ah, there we go. Hey, Siri, where is Bondi Beach?
Here's Bondi Beach, Australia.
Okay. I think she's got an Australian accent. I think I set it for Australian accent. So, oh well. It sounded Australian to me. Bondi Beach. Yeah, we watch that every now and then, that series on the lifeguards at Bondi Beach. So, Australia. So, okay. Oh, yeah, I got a little news for tonight's show. I'll share it again after we start the show on the radio station. But our guest, Ken Ballos, KB, cannot be with us tonight. He just called me about an hour and a half ago and said he had a big change in plans. He had to go to some event with his wife. And so he will not be here tonight. So we're going to talk about other stuff. I've got a couple of other things lined up. Or we can just talk about your ghost stories, too, and have you call in. We can do that. That might be fun. Hey, Susie Q. And because we're going to talk ghost stories with Ken Ballos. Ken, KB's Morning Coffee with KB. All right. You know what? I think we've already started the show. I ran past the start time with the pre-show. So let's just do this. For everybody out there listening, I'm going to play the opener, and we'll be right back. For all of you listening on radio, I got to talking, I was sharing stuff, and sorry about that. I missed the intro. Here it goes.
Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Well, happy Friday evening, everybody. Welcome to the program. This is Scotty Roberts. I am your host here on the Intrepid radio program, which many of you already started hearing because we were in the pre-show, and I just forgot to look at the clock, and I did not start with the intro. So we played the intro late. Well, aren't they doing that now anyway, like in movies and stuff like that and TV shows? I started watching The Lord of the Rings. What's it called? The Power of the Rings. What did they name the new series on Amazon? Lord of the Rings, the Power of the Rings, or something like that. But started watching that, and we got about 15 minutes into the episode of the first episode before the titles came up. The Power of the Rings. So that was pretty cool. Rings of Powers. See, I was close. The Rings of Power. And so that, and they were about 15 minutes into the show with a lot of action before you actually saw the titles. So that's what we did tonight. A little bit of that. So just an announcement for everybody listening on radio who was not in the pre-show. We do not have our guest, Ken Ballos, tonight. Ken had to bail for something that came up. And so he apologizes profusely. We're going to do it one day next week. It might be next Friday. Might be before that. I'll talk to Ken over the weekend and we'll get something lined up. So Ken is he's a radio guy, has been for years. He's got just a nice live stream he does, Morning Coffee with KB. And you can call into his show and talk anytime. Ken Ballos. And he's a former cop. He's a paranormal investigator. I want to say he's a retired cop. I think that's an accurate thing. I think he probably retired from the force. I know he's a little older than I am, so he's enjoying life. And he's down there in Virginia. You kind of talk like that. Can he be KB from Virginia, the castle at the roadside? He says, morning coffee with KB. That's the way he talks. And so he's enjoying life and living it to the fullest. And he's going to join us in a few days now. So he's retired. Him and my dad worked together, says Daniel. Oh, see, I did not know that connection was there. I assumed, Daniel, that he was a retired cop, that he served out his whole, whatever it was, 20 years on the force and you get to retire or something like that. And do they make you retire at a certain time when you're a cop? Or can you just keep going until you drop? What I mean by age. Can you just keep going? Or is it a certain number of years and, you got to go. You got to retire now. You get your gold watch or whatever it is, your pension, and you're out. So that's good to know, though, Daniel. That's pretty cool. And so before, I've got a couple of topics here now. Very different. Oh, you can't keep going. You can keep going, actually. Okay. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I suppose as long as you're fit enough, or if you're done, you can't do street or things like that anymore. I suppose you can go to administrative and other things like that. So would be my guess. I watched plenty of cop shows over my days, so over my lifespan. So I know how this stuff works. So it's like watching legal shows, courtroom dramas. And you go, man, I could be a lawyer. I know how that's supposed to play out. So it's very interesting. Now, I've got a little thing in front of me that I wanted to bring up with you guys. Let's see where I've got it. Blah, blah, blah. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. I thought I kept this thing open. Maybe I did not. I must have put it away and I don't know where it is. I had an article on this guy who was, I know where it is. It's right here. Do you know who Jack Phillips is? Have you heard of Jack Phillips? Jack Phillips was the I want to have this out. I want to read this to you, this article, and I want to pop it out of the window here. Here, we'll just do it this way, so I can still see your comments and see the screen. Now, Jack Phillips was a baker in Colorado, and we've heard other stories about this guy and other guys like him over the years. But Jack Baker was somebody who refused to bake a cake for somebody because of his religious stance in life. And no one, let me ask you, no one should be forced to do something they don't believe in, especially in this country, correct? Now, you can have your politically woke crowd that says, well, you really should. You need to reform your ways, and you need to be woke like us. And if you won't do it, we'll force you to do it. Well, at this point, most Americans have heard of this guy, Jack Phillips, and he is a cake artist. And all he wants to do is create cakes for a living. It's just like me. I like to write, and I like to draw pictures and paint and illustrate. And he's a cake artist. He wants to create one-of-a-kind custom cakes that are consistent with his faith. And what I mean by that, he's not just saying he's a Christian, and he's not saying I will only make Christian cakes. He's just saying my work is a reflection of who I am by faith. If you have faith in something, be it Christianity, Judaism, Islam, whatever it might be that is your faith, paganism even, in this country, in America, there can be no law that prefers your religion over another on a governmental status situation. Unless your religion violates the rights of other people, you have a right to express your faith the way you want to. And he wants to make cakes. And when I say he wanted to make cakes that are consistent with his faith, that simply means not that he was infusing his faith into every cake. We got to put a little cross and a little Jesus fish on your cake, even though it has nothing to do with Jesus or church. No, that's not what it means. It means that he did not want to create cakes for people that were inconsistent with his faith stance in life. As I've always said, if you're going to say you believe something, you better live what you say you believe. And we ran into this a lot in church work. When I was in church ministry, people would be we used to call it getting tapped on the head by God during the Sunday sermon. And they're they're ready to go. And as soon as they get home in the football game or Monday morning back at work, it all goes out the window. You don't live your life by the standards by which you say you operate your faith. So if you have a faith in something, damn well live your life by that faith. Otherwise, that is what's known as hypocrisy. Now, that's all this guy was doing. He said, I live my life by certain tenets of my faith, whether you agree with his faith or not. And he was trying to live consistent with his faith. But for over a decade, activists and Colorado officials have tried to punish him for that. Jack never wanted to spend his days in courtrooms and in the spotlight of national media. Yet what he did, he has been forced to defend his right to free speech for a decade in Supreme Court. And despite his Alliance Defending Freedom victory at the U.S. Supreme Court in 2018, he's continued to be attacked and harassed by activists and governmental officials. This is the whole thing that I think the current president brings to the table. I'm the unifying president. Well, it's as long as you are unified believing what he believes or holding to his tenets or his political philosophies. So Jack's personal beliefs stated that God created men and women to be unique and uniquely complementary to each other. On the sex issue, this means by his faith standards that, and I'm only saying it that way because I want to put it in that housing, that this is a man who believes a certain thing by faith. His faith tells him that God made man and woman to be complementary to each other. And this means that sex is a God-given biological reality, not something we can choose or change. And creating a cake that celebrates any other view of sex would violate his religious beliefs. Not just creating of it, the being forced to create it. Yet an activist lawyer asked Jack to do just that. After Jack politely declined to create a custom cake that would celebrate the attorney's transition from male to female, Jack was sued again. Now, let me stop right there and ask you, should you be sued because you refuse to make a cake, make a piece of art in my case, do anything that celebrates something you don't believe in on a faith level? That doesn't mean you couldn't build a house for somebody who's transitioning if you don't believe in that. It means you can't do things that celebrate it. And he said, my business is not going to do that for you. So just 3 weeks after the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Jack on the original case, Colorado officials pursued him again. But after ADF attorneys uncovered new evidence of the state's ongoing hostility against Jack and his faith, Colorado officials dismissed the case. Now, the activist lawyer, however, filed a new lawsuit in civil court over the same cake request. And so last summer, and this is 10 years after the fact now, last summer, the trial court entered an order punishing Jack for declining to create the gender transition cake. That would be like me saying, okay, field guy, you refuse to make a cake celebrating sexual transitioning from one gender to another because you don't believe it. And now we're going to slap you with fines. So Jack immediately appealed to the Colorado Court of Appeals. And no one, and that's still in play, by the way, no one should be forced to create or express a message that defies their beliefs and their conscience. Governments don't have the authority to compel you to, or me, or anybody, to speak messages you don't believe in. And by creating that cake, Jack believed he was not violating it. He could have done it if he wanted to. He didn't want to. He felt, this is something I believe in. I'm not going to honor that. And because he did that now, he's going through all this crap. Governments don't have the authority to compel you to speak messages you don't believe in. That's been a bedrock American principle for centuries. But it's under attack. It's been under attack, and it's under attack even now. This is what woke America brings you, folks. Because woke is not being awake. Woke is a political thing. This is where everybody says, everybody has to be accepting of everybody else, and if you don't do it the way we say you should, we will persecute the shit out of you. So Jack isn't the only one whose free speech is being threatened. Should a government agency or an official be able to force a Democratic speechwriter to pen a speech for a Republican politician? Should they be forced to do that? Should the Catholic Church be able to demand an atheist cake artist to design an Easter-themed cake when they're an atheist? No. They might argue about it with each other, but should the church take an atheist cake maker to court because he refused to make a cake for him? No. And if I was a judge, I'd say, shut up, STFU, go find another cake maker. This guy doesn't want to do it for you. Do you, if you own a business, have a right to refuse anybody for any reason? Does that open a can of worms? Any reason? Can you say, we don't serve your kind? Now, we saw plenty of that in the civil rights movement in the 60s. That all came out. Black drinking fountains, white drinking fountains. If you were black, you couldn't sit at the counter at a diner because it's whites only. Now, that's a little different. When you have a faith issue, saying, I'm sorry, I'll serve you food, but I ain't going to make you a cake. Celebrating. So Jack has a proven track record of serving all people. His case isn't about that. It's about his First Amendment right to refrain from promoting messages that he doesn't believe in. So Jack refused to give up his freedom without a fight. And he knows it's not just his own speech on the line, it's yours too. If they can force Jack to do that, what can they force other people to do? But he's not the only one standing up to Colorado's attempt to coerce speech and punish people of belief that adhere to their belief system. And you see it especially, I'm sorry to say, in Judeo-Christianity, more in Christianity than anything, because Christianity, I think, has been usurped a bit in America by the religious right, which I don't always agree with. I do not want to see a theocracy in this country ever. And I will oppose a theocracy. Now, you can believe with all your heart that God is the sovereign ruler of the universe, and that he is in control of everything and he's in control of your life. But you cannot push that belief on other people who may not believe that or have a different form of belief in that. That's why our country is the way it is. So can you do it the opposite way? If somebody says, because of my faith, I can't do that for you, it would violate, personally for me, it's something I don't want to do. It's not really in violation of anything other than a person's personal stance on something. So Lori Smith is another case. She's a Christian web designer who has always enjoyed using her talents to support causes she believes in, from veterans to children with special needs, overseas missions, animal shelters, and so on. Her passions also include a desire to shine a spotlight in her way of seeing it on the beauty of God-ordained marriage. She was excited to expand her business to include designing custom wedding websites for her clients, an opportunity to show each story reflected what she believed was the beauty of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Now, I might take issue with the wording of that and the particulars of it. Suffice it to say, like Jack Phillips, she was somebody who said, I do these things and I do not want to violate things that I believe in my faith, just for business, just to make money. But the same Colorado agency that prosecuted Jack Phillips would use its power now to target Lori as well, if she created wedding websites celebrating only marriage between a man and a woman. So when did our country become something where, does the Constitution say that you must honor people who marry within the same sex or transition their sex? No. There's no law saying you have to honor that. There is a law, though, and constitutional law, that says you have a right to your own religion and government shall not infringe upon that. So they've manipulated this now in order to normalize, in order to do whatever they do to justify, however you want to view it. They have made it a thing of political correctness, of woke political correctness, that if you're not going to make a cake for a gay couple because you don't believe in gay marriage, it's not a thing that you want to celebrate by your faith, all of a sudden you should be targeted because you aren't going along with the crowd. You aren't unified with the crowd. Like Jack, Lori serves all different kinds of people, but she doesn't want to design websites promoting every message that's requested of her. Lori can't create. I had a guy come to me, how many years ago? It's before I knew Rainey. It's almost 20 years ago. Came to me and asked me if I would do a political cartoon for him to put on bumper stickers and flags and stuff like that. And he was diametrically opposed to where I was politically. And I said, you know what? I'm not comfortable doing it. I said, you might not be comfortable hiring me because I said, you're probably a great guy. I said, I don't know you I don't know why he called me out of the blue. But I said, I'm very much this way politically. You're this way. I would not feel comfortable, and I don't think I'd be the best guy to do this job for you. because I would cringe at the message. And he accepted that and moved on. But this is all these people are doing. Now, this Lori says she can't design anything that's an un-American. She can't design anything that disrespects someone's faith or degrades people, including those, and she puts in that list, she doesn't support LGBTQ XYZ. And so she's not going to do websites for them, if asked. And Colorado argues that it has the power to control what Lori can say. Now, we are dealing with state law here. But remember, even as an independent state, Colorado or any state in the union can make their own laws on this kind of thing. The only restriction they have is they cannot supersede constitutional law. That's where they would step in and they would be held back from making certain laws. So you can't make a law in a state if it contradicts the constitutional law. So, and that's really one of the only limitations that states have in their sovereignty. Lori knows that if you don't lose your freedom of speech, or she knows that you don't lose your freedom of speech when you choose to make a living. Just because she has a business that caters to the public doesn't mean she is a public entity or like a governmental public agency. She's still an individual with individual rights that can choose to express those. I will put it this way. I lived in a neighborhood in Minneapolis about 25 years ago, renting a floor in a big old Victorian mansion. And down at the end of our street was a restaurant owned by Somali Muslims. And they had a divider up in there where women could only sit on one side and men on the other within their faith. I went in there with my girlfriend at the time and a couple of buddies and their girlfriends, and we all sat down in the main section. We didn't do this like hey, we're going to flip our nose at that. We just noticed it later. We got all our girlfriends sitting in the men's section with us. Now, the restaurant still served us because we weren't asking them to violate their faith. We were not of their faith, so they probably did not expect that of us, is our guess. And maybe if we had been smart, maybe we wouldn't have done that. We didn't know, and I got to tell you, 25 years ago, I didn't know that existed. So that separation was there. So we ate there, and they served us, and they were happy to serve us. I think the men who were customers there probably were more comfortable when we left with our women because we didn't put them on the other side of the wall. So, so Lori, with the help, legal help, she's taken her case to the U.S. Supreme Court. Oh, she said, I missed this quote. This Lori Smith said, I left the corporate world to start my own design studio precisely because I wanted to be able to design things close to my heart and consistent with my beliefs. But if the government won't let me speak and make a living consistent with those beliefs, it could do the same to you and everyone else. That's why Lori, with the help of her legal team, or her lawyer, has taken her case to the U.S. Supreme Court, standing up for all Americans to say what they believe without fear of government punishment. Now, she's not promoting racism. She's not promoting hatred for LGBT community. She's doing none of that. She just says, I don't want to do that because I disagree. I would not be comfortable creating work for you in your community because it's inconsistent with what I personally believe. She's not calling down persecution or decrying anyone. And so her case is going to be argued this fall, and this next fall, I should say. And it could result in a landmark decision for free speech. So Lori shouldn't have to be subjected to this, and neither should the baker in Colorado. So I just saw this article, and I thought that this was going to be good to bring up to us all, because you know what? I think we all need a reminder sometimes that this kind of thing, maybe some of us don't, but I think our country needs a reminder that this kind of thing is freedom of speech. And when you try to force somebody to do something that goes against their freedom of religious expression, we've got a problem on our hands. Let's see. I'm looking back at some of the comments here. Sarah Yusuf, yes, you missed the very early part of the show. I was supposed to have a guest today. He called about an hour and a half before the show, Ken Ballos, and he couldn't make it tonight. He had something come up, and he and his wife had to leave, and he couldn't be around for radio. He profusely apologizes. Those of you who came here tonight, I did not lure you here under false pretenses. We had Ken, and then there's no way to go in and really change all the promotional stuff that's out there. So I just announced it in the pre-show, and I also announced at the beginning of the show that Kenny won't be with us tonight. We're going to line that up for next week sometime. So sorry about that, everyone. Yeah, the guest had to postpone. Thank you, Susie Q. So let's see. He's headed to North Carolina right now, going to a football game with his wife. Yep, he had a homecoming game to go to, he told me. So I don't know if he said something like, my wife came in and said, hey, we have to go to this game. So Virginia to North Carolina is where they had to go. So let's see. Daniel says Passion of the Christ was one of the saddest movies I've ever seen, but a good movie. Indeed. Now, there are going to be some people that were outside the faith. I went and saw, if you guys remember, do you know Ian Punnett? Ian Punnett used to do the Weekend Coast to Coast radio show for George Norrie. He'd do the weekend shows. And Ian Punnett was also, he had a big talk show up here on one of the big...
Here now.
Thank you for interrupting like that. You just come in and say hi. And
I'm here now.
I'm glad you're here. How's your arm? Somebody had to go to the hospital. She got in between a fight between the cat and dog. Here you go.
I can't see it.
There's your Band-Aid.
Oh.
So she had a little puncture wound here and another one up here. What did they say about this one? They didn't even put a Band-Aid on that one.
Because that one didn't really matter, but this one did.
Okay. And you even got the armband. Whoop! She had to go to the emergency room. Only because you never know with cat bites. Now, she didn't know if the cat bit her or the dog bit her, but they...
Or if it was a scratch.
What's that?
Or if it was a scratch.
Or if it was a scratch.
And
So...
I didn't want to stitch it up because...
Well, come here and talk if you're going to talk.
They didn't want to stitch it up because he didn't know if it was a bite, and if it was, he doesn't like to stitch bites up, so he just gave
Yeah,
me
that's a good idea. A little strong Band-Aid there. All right. I'm glad they didn't have to cut off your arm. All right. Yeah, so Lucy is kind of dumb sometimes. We got the big old cat, Oscar, and they get along fine. We've had them both for 5 years together. And still, every now and then, once in a blue moon, at least once every couple of months, they'll get into a little kerfuffle about something. It's usually over food. And so Ellie was sitting with the dog on her lap, and the cat walked by, and Rennie had thrown a piece of meat, had given a little tiny piece of meat to the cat, because Lucy already had one. And apparently the cat looked at it and kind of snubbed it. And then Lucy was going to go for it, and she dives at the cat, and I wasn't there, so I didn't see it. I was outside when all this happened. And so she got a little puncture wound on her. And so they thought, they always say cat bites and cat scratches, you should go get those taken a look at. So Rainey ran her in to the urgent care or ER, I don't know which. So, but don't you love that about my kids too, by the way? Who've been told. It's like I started the pre-show tonight with, oh my God, because that's what my daughter was saying to me, Rowan, the 10-year-old, because some of your parents, she made a big mess in the bathroom. She bathed the dog. Oh, because get this, The cat got so upset the cat pissed on the dog. And I'm like, Lucy, that's what you get for attacking the cat. So Rowan took it upon herself to bathe the dog. Thank goodness. She needed it. And so she bathed the dog. But I walked in the bathroom 2 minutes before the show started, and there's water everywhere, puddles in the corner outside the bathtub, and wet towels all over, and the shower curtain is out of the tub, which means anything wet that came down was running off the shower curtain onto the floor. And I said, Rowan, come on in here and clean this up. And she argued with me. So it was more than 2 minutes before the show, maybe 10 minutes before the show. She argued and argued and argued with me. And I'm like, I stop after a few minutes and I go, why am I arguing with you? I didn't ask you to debate me on this. I said, if you'd stop arguing, it'd be done already. I said, just go wipe up the water, soak up the water. And, well, the towels aren't dirty. I said, they're on the floor in the bathroom. I said, go hang them up on the laundry tub. And all I got was argument after argument after argument. I stopped and I said, what do you have to argue with me about? And, you can't take a knuckle or a limb, It's like, shut up. And I didn't tell her to shut up. I said to her pretty plainly, I said, stop talking, which is a nicer form of shut up. I said, I didn't ask for feedback. I didn't ask for input. I asked you to do a simple task. And I said, all of this arguing could have been avoided if you just go, sure, Dad, I'll get to it. I'll go, thank you very much. And I'll go do my thing and you do your thing. No, she had to argue with me. Anyway, so talking about all this stuff about faith, and can you express your faith in your business? And let us see what I missed. Yeah, Ellery got a little hurt. But you know what? Ellery's the tough kid. They came out to show me before Rainey ran her in, and she shows me her arm, and she's not crying or anything. She goes, yeah, I got bit here, I think, bit or scratch or something. And so they took her in. And it was one of those puncture holes, but the skin was spread open on it. So that's why Rainey thought, it's a little bigger. Maybe we should have that looked at. So I'm sure they disinfected it and all that stuff. So anyway, that's what that was all about. But I got into talking about the kid because this one came down and go, I'm here. It's like, have we not spoken about this a million times? If you want to come in quietly. I'm doing a radio show. If you want to say hi to the peoples, come in and make yourself known. If I don't want her here, I'll put up my hand. See, you can see my shadow doing it now. I'll put up the hand. I'll tell her to stop. Stop where you are. I'm talking. I won't even say that. I'll just go. And, but there you go. That's my kids. I'm sure she's made of vulcanized rubber. It's something like that. Yeah, Sarah. So, anyway, this whole thing of the rights. Do you have the right to refuse somebody on the basis? If you run a business, can you refuse to do work for somebody on the basis that you think it would violate something you believe? Not draw you into an act of doing something, but something that would violate something that you say, well, this is something I'm not comfortable with because I don't believe it's right. So should be forced to do that or shut the doors of your company. That's not constitutional. And I don't even know how constitutional lawyers have an argument for this. It's bullshit. I think it depends on the type of service, says Sarah. Sure. What if you are, and I want to say this. I stand with these people. I don't agree with them necessarily, but I stand for their right to refuse something. And Sarah, we covered this a little bit earlier. Maybe you were here or not. I'm not talking about, we don't serve your kind here. We don't allow your kind to sit in our restaurant. That's a different thing. So I'm sure there are fine lines here. If you believe a certain something, should you be forced to service somebody? My wife's a massage therapist. Now, we don't have beliefs. She doesn't have any problem with anybody who wants to be gay or lesbian or LGBTQ, transitioning, whatever. It's, more power. You're an adult. If that's a decision you want to make, I wouldn't do it. I disagree with it. I think it's kind of dumb. But that's me in a nutshell. But I wouldn't reject giving you services, right kind of services. Design a website, draw a picture, unless it violated something that I found very distasteful. What if it is not a religious thing? What if you find something distasteful, like the political one I used as an example? Somebody who was very left-leaning came to me to do some artwork and designs for campaigning. And I said, I'm probably the wrong guy because I'm on the total opposite side of the fence. I said, no offense. I said, but I wouldn't be comfortable doing it because I disagree with the message. So it would be something like that. I disagree with your messaging, and so I reserve the right to express my freedom of speech to deny you that service. And it's not like I'm the only guy in town. It's not like this Phillips guy was the only baker in town. Go to someone else who doesn't have a problem with it. Why make it a legal case unless you are trying to push the button to normal or to force people to accept you? Don't force me to accept you. I'll accept you on my terms. And you accept me on your terms. So, Sarah says, I draw the line at medical care or in cases of safety, governmental service. And everything. Yeah, exactly. You can't deny somebody medical care because they're transitioning you. You are a firm biblical or religious disbeliever in transition surgery or anything like that. You can't deny them medical care. I agree with you, Sarah. And I'm not like, it's not like, I don't agree with that particular lifestyle. But it's not my thing to disagree with. I don't live it. It's not my choice. It's their choice. They have the freedom to make that choice. But do not impose that choice on me. Same with the religious right. They have a right to believe what they believe, and I will support their right to believe it. But don't try to impose it on me and the rest of the country. I might even agree with some of their tenets, but I do not force that on the country. I will stand against it. I've brought it up a few times, like the DOMA Act, the Defense of Marriage Act, the religious right was pursuing. They wanted to make it a constitutional amendment that marriage should be defined by the Constitution as between only one man and one woman. Can't do that. That's not why the Constitution is there. That's not the federal government's nor the Constitution's place to pass laws on that. And I resisted it. I said, look, all my friends on the religious right, because I have a lot of them. I said, all my friends on the religious right, I'm sorry, I can't support that. Because I do not believe that is what we should be doing. Sarah says, America is so litigious, people use court cases as grandstanding propaganda. Ain't that the truth? And that's what I think is exactly what was happening. It's grandstanding propaganda is what happened to this baker in Colorado. Today was my last day working for the man, says Beth Kirkham. Are you retired today or did you switch jobs? And when you say the man, do you mean in general, a particular man who was an ass or something and you quit? What was it? Congratulations, by the way. I'm thinking that your comment is meant to be celebratory. It was your last day working for the man. So congratulations. Enjoy what you're going to do next. You can share it with us if you want. So going back and looking at all of this, looking at your comments. Going on. Sarah says, wasn't Scotty supposed to have a guest today? Oh, we already saw that and covered that. And yes, those of you coming in late, our guest had to cancel for tonight. We're postponing till next week. Rudy Kessler, good evening, he says. Good evening to you, Rudy. YouTube is already punishing me, says Field Guy. They punish a lot of people. Sometimes it's for violation of their copyright stuff or whatever. I'm surprised I did not get a copyright hit for playing the Red Skelton piece last night. I thought I was right away going to be nailed with that one. But it wasn't. So there's that. Let's see. And I'm not even sure if I have that one up in the general populace with my other. I have to set that every day to show that it's going to show up so you can see it in the archives. So anyway, but personal beliefs. Some of us get so caught up in our personal beliefs that we can't see the forest through the trees. I think this baker in Colorado, I see his point. I see the point of the other side. I don't see the point to get litigious about it. But I'm one that would say, I don't have a problem giving you services for art or design or baking a cake or making a tumbler. Now, let's say, Rainey's in printing mugs or tumblers, and it's pushing a certain thing that she doesn't believe in. Let's say Rainey didn't go along with the LGBTQ lifestyle. Maybe it's not even a religious thing. But somebody came to her and said, will you print these up for our pride thing? And it's got content she doesn't want to do. She could just refuse them. No, I'm not going to do that. Can't take you on. Now, if you make a point of saying, God told me I can't do, you're going to get resistance. But if you just say, look, no thanks. The people that are looking to pursue a legal action are usually the ones that are going to press that. Well, why not? Why can't you do this cake for me? Because they want that reason down so they can pursue you legally. I just say no, can't do it. But thanks. And this guy refused. Can you sue somebody for refusing you service? I don't know. Just for that simple reason, wouldn't you have to have a reason? He refused me service because of my sexuality. Well, how do you know that? Did he say that? No, but they'll take you to court. For me, I don't have a big problem with it. There's certain things where I would draw the line, though. And I wouldn't have problems designing a mug for Pride, Gay Pride Week, and Rainey prints the mugs. They pay for the mugs. That's cool. I'm fine with that. You can go do with them what you want. So, Sarah Yusuf says, labor laws are murky about that, and they vary from state to state. Yeah, they do. So if you're going to be in, it's not really old news, Beth. This is a guy that's still going through this now. He's gone through 10 years of it, and it's still happening to this guy. This Phillips was his last name. I can't remember his first name without going to look back at it. He went all the way to the Supreme Court, and then the same lawyer came back that he refused service to originally and started suing him civilly. Now that's going to go back to the Supreme Court. So it's an interesting. So it's not old news; it's new news. You may have missed the beginning of this, where we were talking about this is a story. This is happening right now, and it's the different one than we think it is. There was a different set of circumstances. So yeah, civil sucks. It does. Yeah, I'm a big old. I'm a big A girl. Did you mean that or big old girl? I like girls because I'm a male lesbian. That means I'm a lesbian trapped in a male body. There you go. So I love women. I love my wife. He could countersue for harassment. Yeah, I think he's attempting to do some of that. So yeah, it's. I look at it and go, it's just dumb. If the guy doesn't want to make you a cake, go somewhere else. Like I said, it's not that there's a shortage of cake makers out there or website developers. Good grief. Go somewhere else, unless your whole point for going to them was to make it a big litigious case. You want to have a case because you want to prove a point and you want there to be a ruling on it. Just go F off would be go somewhere else. If I said no, I meant no. I might be in business, but is there a law that says I got to serve everybody? Is there a law that says I have to violate if it's a thing of my faith? Is there a law that says I need to violate my faith or tenets of my faith? There's something I believe within my faith structure. It may not even be militant. It just may be something you're not comfortable with. Do I have to service people I'm not comfortable with? What if, I don't know. What if I owned a restaurant and a bunch of people came in that were maybe not acting or doing anything wrong? Maybe they stunk. Maybe it was I don't know, whatever it might be. I can't think of a good, perfect analogy for this. But there are reasons you'd have to go to them and go, look, you guys, I can't serve you because, the health code or whatever. And then that's a different thing when you have health code. But there are reasons sometimes where you have to ask somebody to leave. You are doing this, you're doing that. No shirt, no shoes, no service, says Sean. Of course, that's usually health code law. So you get what I mean. You can be discretionary, and I think we live in a country where you can do that to a certain extent as long as you are not violating someone's right. And that's the big question. Was a Christian cake maker who did not believe that the gay lifestyle was right be forced to make a cake for a gay couple in violation of what he believed? So there you go. So you're officially retired now, Beth Kirkham. Well, that's congratulatory. Do you got lots of big plans for retirement? You're going to do stuff? You're going to travel? You're going to go to the moon? Go to Egypt? Go to places? See things? Do things? Or just take time to say, I'm kicking back now. I've worked for X number of years and I'm done for a while. Just going to kick back, going to hop in the camper maybe some more, something like that. But anyway, congrats either way. And we got about, about 3 minutes left, and we are off air with the radio station. Then we'll have the captain's cabin. So, folks, if you have not been to the captain's cabin, what was it? There was an old movie by the comedian Chris Elliott called Cabin Boy. It was one of those just off-the-wall, stupid comedic movies. And he went to the captain's cabin, and he came out, and he says, I entered the captain's cabin as cabin boy. I've come out cabin man. So there's that, too. But we got the captain's cabin right after this show ends on the radio. And we got about a minute left, and we're going to go out to closing credits and then into the captain's cabin where you can come in and you can call into the show. The link is in the Ballos section at Facebook. I'm sorry, at YouTube. It's in the description at Facebook if you want to call in. You won't be able to get on air if I don't know who you are or if I don't recognize you, because we get a lot of those spam callers, those troll callers and stuff. So come into the chat room first, say some words, introduce yourself, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to go out for the radio audience in about 15 seconds. I appreciate the fact that you guys are here, that you give me your time, that you listen. Sorry we didn't have our guest tonight, but he had to postpone, but we'll have him in next week. And go check out Ken Ballos, Ballos on Facebook. Ken KB Ballos, he does morning coffee with KB. And I hop on his show. So every morning he does it at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, I think, Eastern. Maybe 8. hits here at 8 o'clock, so 9 o'clock Eastern. So go check him out in the meantime. And so for all of you on the radio, I just want to say, and you don't see this, but live long and prosper. We're out.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid radio program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad so he can take me to Disneyland.
Son of a bitch. All right. There it is again. I was just talking to Doug this afternoon, Doug Stack, and I told him because I got to port down the mic during the intros and the exits, I forget to bring it back up. So sorry about that, guys. Thanks for letting me know over in the chat room. And so it happens. And I don't know why that is so easy to forget. I watch the screen for when the intro music dies down so I can start talking. and I sometimes forget to reach over here and hit the button. So I don't like producing my own show. I like having a producer. So it's like Peter O'Toole said in the movie My Favorite Year, which was in the early 1980s. He was playing an Errol Flynn kind of a character, aging. And at one point he yells out toward the end of the movie, he says, "I'm not an actor. I'm a movie star." So like that, I'm not a radio engineer or producer. I'm not a radio guy. I'm a talker. So that's what I do. I talk. I don't like having to watch the buttons. So Cotton is the mute pirate in Pirates of the Caribbean. Oh, yeah. You might have to get another person to help you make sure the texts are working. It's easier said than done, Matthew. Somebody's got to be sitting here or sitting hooked up on the other end. Now, Ron Phillips could do it over at the radio station, Odyssey, but he doesn't have time to produce everybody over there. So I'd have to bring my own producer and have us all connected online, so he doesn't have to be sitting in the same studio with me and watching and him broadcasting the show and just bringing me in. So there you go. Lip reading. Yeah, we can lip read. So let lips do the talking, says Sean Stroik. Or put a sticky note on the monitor. I've done that, Sarah. You used to have so many sticky notes on there. Turn the button up. Press the this. Hit the hijack. Make sure your levels are right. Turn down the sound while you're doing the show so it doesn't echo into feedback in the hijacking software, which is different than the broadcasting software. And so it's pretty much down pat. It's a pretty easy thing. But every now and then I just forget to port up the mic. So what I was saying was this. I was talking to Matthew Sainsbury because he said something about Resurrection Mary. And no offense to you at all. It's just different cultures, the things that we hear, the things we've learned as we go along. But I'm going to tell you, Matthew, Resurrection Mary, that particular ghost story has probably been heard by every American at least 100 times. Over the last century, that urban legend, whether it started with one actual event or a couple of actual events like that, is one of those overtold ghost stories. So you wouldn't know that because you're in Barbados. That's where you were born, grew up, and lived. Over here, we've heard that story 1,000,000 times. So just letting you know, it's like people will say to me in social media, they'll see a picture of me wearing a kilt. And they'll go, "Oh, I found this thing I got to share with you." And it's the song about the drunken Scotsman who fell asleep by a tree and two women looked under his kilt and then they tied a blue bow around it. And the end of the song was he looks down as he's peeing in the morning and he says, "Well," he says, "I don't know where you've been, laddie, but I see you won first prize." Now, that's funny, but it was funny maybe the first 250 times I heard it. So I try to be gracious when somebody shares that with me. I go, "Wow, that's really funny."
Even doing a Biden tonight.
What's that?
Red. I'm doing a Biden tonight.
You're doing a Biden. Oh, you're all in red. Put your fists up like this. I'm on the captain's cabin.
Is that better?
There you go. Now you're green. Where are you?
I am on the road to Wyoming, Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
Theoretically, I'm about 7 minutes away from my destination.
Oh, there you go. Well, we got you for at least 7 minutes.
I am cooking for a Viking feast.
Oh,
or
very
Viking
cool.
fest. And so
Odin.
So I'm doing that.
Well, that sounds like fun.
My favorite Scottish joke. I like the blue ribbon one, but my favorite
it's oldie,
one.
but
Angus is up on the hill tending the sheep, and a bee comes buzzing around him, flies right up his kilt and stings him right on his willy. So he sees a wee cottage down at the bottom of the hill. He runs down there. He bursts through the door. and there's old widow McGregor. And he says, "Oh, do you have any buttermilk?" She says, "Oh, I do." Right over on the table. And he grabs the pitcher and he shoves it up under his kilt. And he lets out a big, comfortable sigh.
Ah. Oh,
And she goes,
class.
"I've always wondered how you refill those things."
Nice. What was the one I heard about? He says, who is it? It's Tom, and he's a bridge builder. He says, I've been building bridges for the last 40 years. And he says, I built the bridge over the river. And he says, I built the bridge going over the stream. And I built the bridge going over another river over here. And he says, am I known as Tom the bridge builder? No. He says, but shag one sheep. So I'm sure I missed something in there, but
another great one.
Yeah, it's longer. You draw that one out. That's one of those drawn out ones. I got Matthew Sainsbury calling in. Hey, Matthew, how you doing?
I'm fair tonight. I'm okay. Yeah, concerning resurrection. Yeah, good night, dear Potter. Yeah, concerning Resurrection Mary, I had a little bit of a strange experience a couple of weeks ago concerning that, because I was trying to watch it on a movie on that online.
You're a little choppy.
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody can hear you. You're a little choppy, Matthew. You're kind of vibrating your sound, but go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. You can hear me now?
I can hear you.
Yeah. I was trying to watch Resurrection Mary a couple of weeks ago. I had a bit of a strange encounter, because one of the things that occurred is that I managed to pick up I think it was a 25-minute clip of the story of Resurrection Mary. And as I was watching it, I have an electric kettle in my room. And as I was watching it, I had finished using the electric kettle, making a cup of tea and so, but all of a sudden it clicked on. And I clicked it off, and then it clicked back on again. So after time, it kept doing that. And then I actually unplugged it. It stopped doing that then. And then I said, well, let me plug it back in and see if everything is normal again. And as I was continuing to watch that little 25-minute show on that topic, it clicked back on again. So something strange was going on. That was a bit of an unusual thing.
A short in your electricity? Yeah.
Well, I don't know, but I noticed that after I turned off watching it, I noticed it stopped doing it, but only when I had it on, it started doing that again. So that's very unusual.
Yeah. Well, we're getting some stuff in the chat room. Your audio is a little sketchy. I can hear you, but I'm going to let you go because you're a little choppy. And
okay.
Matthew, thanks for calling in with that. And so, he's got a little electric problem with his TV popping on and off. And so, can that be ghostly or is it electricity? We don't know for sure. So, hey, Sarah.
Hey, guys.
Hey,
How
Sarah.
you doing?
Hey, Dave.
I'm sort of in pink light tonight, so I feel like I'm honoring you.
Right.
Yes.
Sure.
So how you doing? What's on your mind tonight?
No, I was just thinking about the stuff you were saying, and it's like I think you were agreeing with me in terms of the topic and stuff tonight.
Yes.
There has to be a line.
There does have to be a line.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to deny somebody, like say medical care or anything that relates to their life being threatened or in such a way that there's certain, and like it says in the Constitution, there's certain unalienable rights that a person should be allowed to have in terms of right to life, right to live, all that stuff. So,
but I've turned down catering gigs, and I've turned down gigs doing like brides' dresses and stuff, just because I look at that bride and I'm like, oh my God, you are going to be one hell of a bridezilla to have to work with. I don't want to have to deal with that BS. So no, I'm not going to do your thing.
Yeah, so you're well within your right to, especially
right.
That to me that shouldn't be an issue. I mean, as far
it shouldn't be. And I think there are obvious lines to be drawn. You can't you can't racially discriminate against somebody. But of course, that is the foundation that I'm sure some of these trans community, LGBTQ, I suppose that includes trans, that the community is trying to, I believe they are out there looking for ways to make these cases landmark cases or precedent-setting cases. Because they're attempting still to build legitimacy for their choices in life. And so they will push it as a comparative would be racial discrimination. You can't not serve somebody in a restaurant because they're a different color than you are. That's illegal. And so I think they're trying to build the case that being trans, which is an elective surgery, is the same thing as being born a different race and being discriminated against.
Well, I mean, everybody's going to be promoting their own viewpoints, and when it boils down to it, everybody thinks that their view is the right view. So, I mean,
Yes.
everybody thinks differently.
Right.
So,
I think the important thing in this country is that we don't deny them their rights. That doesn't mean you're going to get every cake maker to make a cake for you. I think that's not what the Constitution is about.
No, but I mean, there's still, areas of gray, like with the rise in healthcare. There's some conservative groups that don't want to support, providing healthcare in regards to contraception, Planned Parenthood, all that stuff. Sure. Saying that, it go against their beliefs. So, I mean, it's tried to define the line of, we say a separation of church and state, but
for me,
yeah,
using that goes against my faith argument is lame, as far as I'm concerned. Now, I understand I've been a person of faith. I understand people who are people of faith, but I think that's a lame argument. That's almost as lame as saying, "Well, I just don't like gays, and so I'm not gonna make a cake for them." Well, okay. Whatever. Should you anyway? I don't think the government should. I don't think the government should be able to force you to make the cake. Go ahead, Dave.
Your destination is on the right.
I was going to say, as a chef, I look at that, and one of my big questions is, why would you want to have somebody make some food for you that doesn't want to do it in the first place?
Right. If there's somebody that doesn't want to, if I wanted you to make a dinner for me or cater a dinner for me or make a cake for me, and it goes totally against your belief system, why would I want you to do it for? Why would I want to force you to do it? I just go to another cake maker. I might say, F off, Dave, and go find another cake maker.
But
why try to make a legal case out of it? Because they're trying to prove a point.
Right.
They're
and for especially for, I don't want to say fringe societies or people that are, in the minority, the want and, wanting to make things mainstream, enter into the mainstream. I think that's, the whole point, that, they're trying to just make it normalized. Like now, the way things are now, it's like somebody comes out as gay, it's such a big deal. But where, if it was maybe 50 years from now, even 100 years from now, it's like somebody kind of like, oh, okay, fine, okay.
I think that's kind of different. I think I've always thought when I was a younger man in my 20s and 30s, somebody coming out as gay, you were like, shocking. Everybody was shocked about it. Now it's like, we thought so, nobody cares. See, I think it's the flip of that.
I mean, that's
you figured it out.
Yeah. It's definitely.
Hey, Professor Bauer.
Hey, Bauer.
He's there somewhere, I think.
He's probably listening.
Maybe his mute button is on.
Be 2 for 4.
2 for 4.
I kind of feel like I'm driving into the campground where the Friday the 13th took place.
Right.
Going down this windy little gravel road right now through pine trees.
Nice.
Well,
yeah.
We do have Halloween coming up.
Sean Stroik just said, I'm not going to go to the satanic cake maker to make me a cake for Easter with a cross. You might get a very
and I find it hard to believe that these people are in a
Two?
town where they can't
Yeah.
find a second baker.
Check
Don't
one.
pull that up her head. It's not your place. It's not your place. Keep your hands to
Good
yourself.
evening.
Hey, Ellery. Oh, that's Rowan. Is
Hey,
that Rowan?
Professor.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's Rowan. And there's Ellie. It's Friday
Blue hair
night.
becomes you.
What?
I said blue hair becomes her.
Oh, yes, yes.
It's just a wig.
It's so you.
It's pink. It's blue and purple.
Well,
In case you're colorblind, it's blue and purple.
I'm in red light, so
Yeah, yeah. Dave's in red light. Dave's doing a
You
bike
guys
ride.
were talking something about
Come on over here,
people,
Flynn.
people being given rights of some kind.
What does this say? Not being given rights. People, the whole
People
thing
being
started.
denied services.
And there's Flynn. There's my son Flynn. So there he is. He's taller than the girls. I thought since all kids were down here, come on over. So
Good to see
no.
some testosterone balance.
Yes, yes, quite a bit. By the way, before I get into what you just asked, Professor, my son today, he said, "Dad, I want to wear my Obi-Wan Kenobi outfit to school today," and I'm like, "Cool, go ahead."
Right on.
And it's a nice one. And if you go on my Facebook, you'll see a picture of it. And so he put that on. And he says, "Do you think they'll make me take it off?" And I said, "Maybe. We don't know yet." I said, "But just tell them it's your religion. You're a Jedi."
Nice.
So
which I love.
that was the topic of the show tonight. It's the whole
Being
the
a
old
Jedi?
story, the decade-old story of the guy in Colorado who refused to make a cake for a couple of gay guys, or a transitioning gay guy, and because he said it goes against my faith standards. See you, Flynn. I just wanted you to come and say hi. And he won in the Supreme Court, but then the same guy came back and sued him civilly now. Now he's going through the process all over again. And my point is, I don't know what kind of personality this baker has, but if you say, "Look, I have a belief system, and there are certain people I won't bake a cake for." Now, I know the argument that already is being made. It's one of, well, what if your faith said you couldn't serve black people? Should we honor that? That's a different thing. That's different than, but what they're trying to do is equate being a transitioning gay person to the same thing as being a different race. Those are not the same thing. Number
Well,
one,
it's not to people who don't think about it that way, but to the people who
Yep.
do think it's that way.
that's it.
That's the whole
But
issue from my perspective. They're
I
all
have
making
I have a lot of misconceptions in life. I think a certain way, and somebody might come along and tell me, "Yeah, I think a different way."
Yeah, but how do you know that they're misconceptions? I mean, yeah, that's
How do they know that
that's
my
something-
misconception is a misconception?
right?
It's two different ideals.
If you notice, there's a common theme across all of the stuff that's agitated and gaining all of the noise and sound and heat
Mhm.
in the social fabric, and it is specifically about the commonality is that they are all addressed from a victim's perspective on behalf of them by others who have decided to use their victimhood as a stance, as a crusade, as a point of being that they have also attached. And this is where they try to attack people who
Yeah.
don't think the same, is that they've got the sanctimonious perspective of superiority on the moral and ethical realm.
But what if it isn't
and the
about
rules?
having any kind of sanctimonious superiority? What if it's just a guy who says, "What if it's you and me?" And
Oh
I
no,
say-
I'm not talking
and I
about
say,
the person. I'm not talking about the person. I'm talking
Oh,
about
okay.
the meme that's across. They all have this.
All right.
Everything he leveraged being a quote unquote victim in his eyes and from his perspective.
Mhm.
In reality, what was happening was capitalism at its normal and as it's at its finest. you can go to anyone who sells any service and see if you can get the service. And they have the right to deny you service.
Sure they do.
Okay. Because it's an independent business. So the fact that this guy made a bunch of noise, people got behind him, it got pushed all the way to the Supreme Court and went through all of this legal analysis to determine what really happened as it equates to our laws, who have been made and used and abused by the same people that are going to adjudicate it. Right? Does that make sense?
It does.
So you get it's really important to look past all of the analogous the individual events and how they're hyped and pumped, and because you can see this common theme if you look closely enough. It doesn't have to look that close, because the majority of the commonalities of the characteristics of the noise and the chatter and the heat and the angst and all this crap is coming from people who are emotionally elevated, using you can see it in not only in their body language, but most importantly in the words that they use. But when you look at their face, when you watch people and you see what their face is doing when they're saying the words they're saying, you can tell a whole bunch. And fortunately, it doesn't take a rocket surgeon to see what's going on, because the majority of the people, and this is just an observation, but the majority of the people that are making all the noise and creating all the angst do not look like very happy people.
Yeah.
They look, and in fact, they don't look not only not happy, most of them don't look very healthy either.
Yeah.
And it's just a generalization. I'm not picking on anything, any group, gender, race, or anything in particular. But as a whole, when you look at those who are promoting the things that are causing all the strife and grief and being basic pains in the asses, and pushing it to a degree where it's, hey, now you're over the line. There's a great meme with Clint Eastwood sitting on a porch, and he's sitting in his chair, and it says, wait till the people who don't want to get involved and just want to be left alone start getting involved.
Exactly.
Because it's going to get to a point where, and I thought initially that there was going to be more of the opportunity for the contention, for an actual, confrontation of this, Civil War kind of meme that keeps going around. But now I think that actually in the great words and work of Sun Tzu in The Art of War, never interrupt your opponent when they're making a mistake.
There it is.
Okay. And that is what I think, what I'm seeing when, again, I look at these generalities across all this crap and the common characteristics. I look at it and go, even now, to the point you're doing it to where it's blatant. That that everybody knows you're doing it, and you're doing it anyway. That cannot sustain. That will fall apart on its own. So
I agree.
What I'm seeing is an internal collapse. A few years ago, even in 2019, these folks were basically starting to feed on their own. They were becoming cannibalistic among their own ideology and their inclusive collective of whoever they could con into getting into this mindset.
Yeah.
But that now has been turned, the flames on high. And these people are just, they're doing it to themselves. And I think the implosion is nigh, and it's still going to get ugly, but it's going to be, it's so blatant that there's going to be, even among those that, we would consider the sleeple, as a modicum of common sense. You can look at this train wreck.
There has to be a point
it's coming, because you can't be this stupid and think it's going to continue.
Exactly. There has to be a point where common sense kicks in. And I see that a lot with a lot of people that, it would be like, say, good example, George Takei, who played Sulu in the original Star Trek. He's got an Instagram, and I joined his Instagram, 10 years ago, whatever it was, that Instagram was first out there, and because he was George Takei. And he has gradually, over the years, become more and more activist in his far left progressive ideology. And so I'm still a friend of his. Well, not personally. I mean, a friend online. And I see some of his posts and I make comment because I see 300 other people. Yeah, that's right. Oh, those stupid a-holes or this, that, or whatever pet name they have. I see nobody offering up anything substantive to either support or go against his arguments.
Well, here's one of the most important things that I think everybody needs to be more aware of. Again, going back to these common characteristics across the inclusive collective, okay? This ideology that has so many incongruities, inconsistencies, and flat out, what are you talking about stuff going on in there? They bounce around, they connect with one another and cause all kinds of just a consistent state of chaos, okay? And it's real simple to me when I look, and I don't, because I don't go anywhere or do anything, which makes it even nicer.
Yeah.
But if I do encounter that kind of mentality, the first thing I ask is, okay, explain to me how you want to get to where you think it should be. Let's talk about that. And that is literally most of the time, the instant breakdown of any further communication or conversation or discourse. Because when you ask, okay, I hear what you're saying. I even sympathize with you. I empathize. I see what you're talking about and why you are so worked up about it. How do we get to where you want to go? Let's go through that. And the reason that it is literally the end of the conversation is because there is 9 times out of 10 nothing behind how do you get there.
Well, there's no middle ground either.
And sometimes when there is some kind of laundry list of reasons, which are really more excuses, and some of them are just flat out so individualistic that you can't generalize it into a population. It just doesn't make any sense. There are some things you can't do just because one person or 5 or 10 are, have this affliction that's been, again, victimized by a set of people doing it on their behalf. Right. So the issue in all of the discourse, what's missing is the discourse of exchange, interaction, starting with questions. And if you can't question whatever that particular, whatever the mantra is, whatever the flag du jour that somebody's trying to fly, you have to be able to have discourse and interaction by getting to know. And the only way you get to know is you ask questions. You have to be, Socrates says, one of the greatest things is not only to question yourself, but also to question others.
Yes.
And if you can't do that and do it in a civilized, rational, and respectful way, then you're not going to get anywhere. And that's where the breakdown is, in my opinion. That's what I'm saying. But like I said, the key thing is the people that are holding on to this stuff and trying to making all the hay, they're killing their entire movement themselves. They were eating themselves from within. Now they're just collapsing. They're disintegrating from within. And
that's it.
And so the intensity is like the cornered animal. They know that this is when
you're trying to force a belief onto somebody, they will generally turn in the other direction, and it will generally sabotage your cause. If I went out and preached the gospel of Jesus and stood on a street
which
corner,
we've both done,
how many people am I going to win over to Jesus by forcing them into it? Not many. It's usually you want to present something very peaceful, and so you have to make the choice. By the way, there's Ken Ballos. He says, great show. He's on the road. He was our guest tonight, and he had something come up at the last minute and couldn't make it. They had to travel, so we're going to get him next week. Thanks, Kenny. Appreciate the message there. He's listening on the road.
What the hell is going on here?
What do you got going?
I have music on my side. I've been working on some stuff, and I know it's on my side, and I can't figure out where it's coming from. That's what happens when you beat your computers into submission by playing too much music.
Beth Kirkham says, I don't know. I have a hard time seeing it as oppression or discrimination. I can't get into what the motive is for that. I think the motive, Beth, as I've stated, and this is without trying to be totally nasty about it, for lack of a better word, I think the motivation is to try to build a normalization. They want to create what is there. You asked the question earlier, Beth, about why did this guy take this lawsuit against a baker who didn't want to bake him a cake when there are many other important things like feeding the homeless, veterans, things like that, that maybe he should be an activist for that. Well, the problem is that he's an activist for his personal cause. He's transitioning, and there's so much stigma out there about it that who wouldn't want anything that creates a stigma that they are part of? Wouldn't they want that normalized? And I think they want it normalized, and that's why they're trying to equate it by using the same rules that apply to people who are racially, heritage-wise, of a different race, different color skin. They're trying to equate it to the same type of discrimination, and it really isn't. It's just a guy who says, I don't want to bake your cake. And you know what?
That's because the only way they can sell the whole issue that they have defined him as being a victim, is to either redefine stuff or use extreme definitions and expansions of, which happens all the time in language. And so he's the one that's making the issue. No one else is. I mean, and again, it just goes back to the simple fact that at the end of the day, the fact that he made an issue of this was to take an agenda, an ideological perspective on what he has defined for himself as his rights. And he's made it so that it can have an impact on everybody else. One guy has said, okay, well, got to do the cake thing. Well, that's not going to work. We're going to go ahead and take you to court, and we're going to make a big deal about this. So what happens? All of the people that have any kind of sympathy or connection to that scenario, they get animated. And that's the whole reason for making anything a big deal, is to leverage that energy and that ideology, the environment, the circumstances, whatever it might be, and leverage it to the direction they want it to. And the reason that they have to force it, which creating a force, forcing you to have to do it eventually, right? And the reason they have to do that is because what they have to sell is shit. Nobody wants to buy it on their own. You can't do that. And that's what capitalism and a free market model, the peer-to-peer, which is around the corner, it's going to be awesome. But the whole idea of being able to conduct transactions of value between an individual and from individuals to institutions to satellites and colonies on other planets, that ability to have that one-to-one transaction, ability to transact, exchange things of value. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what we do. But you put a whole bunch of layers and a bunch of systems and infrastructure and stuff into that, all it's going to do is clog it up, make it cost more than it should, and it decreases the amount of potential that exists simply by this peer-to-peer model is enabling. And
hey, Sarah, I'm just curious to what Sarah thinks about that. Sarah, you're
pretty
here.
much agree. Pretty much agree. Yeah.
And that was Sarah Yusuf, folks.
Thank you, Sarah.
That's like, and how do you feel on this whole thing we've been expounding on? Yes. I'm just teasing you.
Yeah, no.
I just wondered if you had a unique point of view on this, or
Well, I mean,
unique take.
if you look at it, it's more than, it's not about the cake. You know, it's about,
Yeah.
again, this cause, and we were talking about
Yep.
earlier. It's you know, it's becoming propaganda, and it's
Mhm.
propaganda for a cause, because, you know, everybody has their own causes and issues and things that we have to deal with in life and everything, and like everything in life, we have to make noise about it. You know, it's that
Yes.
thing about the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Where's our attention going? Where our attention is, you know, spread out against 1,500 other things, and said, okay, if this is loud enough, then it's going to get attention, and then, you know, people will either deal with it or not deal with it, or, you know, think about it, or, you know, whatever that they want. And it's taking those, and I hate saying the word fringe, but I mean fringe beliefs, and trying to make them mainstream.
That is fringe.
Yeah.
You know, I
Well, the
wouldn't worry
definition
about
of fringe is what? A small set of hanging dingleberries off the side of whatever it is. I
Right.
mean, fringe
I
is
mean, you would
not
have to ask Webster if they
right.
use
Webster
dingleberry.
used the word dingleberry. I have it on good authority.
Yeah, you look up fringe and you see a little set of dingleberries.
Yes.
But
I had a guy that I used to talk to from time to time on Instagram. This is just for setting the, you know me, I'm a visual guy. And I believe that's part of presenting any kind of story, but he was very heavy set fellow. He looked very sad. I never saw him ever looking happy in any of his pictures or little video clips he would do. Had his hair all grown out and kind of stringy and scraggly, and was transitioning. I think he was not pre-op. I think he was pre-op. But he was, I guess, the precursor to being trans. I don't know what they call it. I think it used to go transvestite, and then it would go to transsexual, whatever. But he was non-op, and he was always very sad about, and he would present, and he'd always be very angry. And sometimes he would ask me questions about things because I posted some political stuff, and I don't remember what prompted it, but we were in a private conversation. I said, well, tell me, I said, I wouldn't mind understanding you better. I said, because I look at you and I said, I see a very sad man. I said, are you sad because you believe you're a woman and you're trapped in a man's body? I said, are you sad because nobody's accepting you for what you want to do? What is it? I said that, and that's really was my whole point, was you seem very sad. And he came back at me very angry that I would even suggest I'm a very happy man. You know, and I said, okay, if you're a happy man, I said, I don't see it in your actions. I said, if you're happy about who you are and where you are and your transition, your desire to I said, why aren't you living a happy life? Because you're doing what you want to do. And he blocked me after that. And I was not being confrontational with him. I was just asking questions. Well, since we're talking about it, and you're saying that I'm excuse me, biased or holding something. I said, I'm not. I said, I don't care what you do. It's your choice. I said, but you seem very unhappy, was the basis of my argument. And it wasn't even really an argument. It was a question. Why are you so unhappy if you're doing what you want to do? And I said, I think I did say, maybe this changes the whole complexion of what I just said. But I said, I think your unhappiness is coming from a lot of different issues. I said, I don't think it has to do with the sexuality thing. I said, this is telling me that there's something emotionally broken in you. And I said, what is that thing? Have you ever tried to delve the depth to try to find out what is that emotional brokenness that is deep inside of you. And I said, I think that the transitioning thing is a symptom of that. I don't think that comes from the transitioning thing. I said, I perceive you as being a very broken person. Is it all about your sexuality? I said, or is the sexuality issue coming out of that? You're trying to salve whatever the emotional crisis is within you by saying, I think I need to be a woman. I said, am I wrong about that? And now, by the way, it was all presented in the voice. I just gave it to you. I was not like, oh, you dumb homosexual. That's all you really are. And you just want to cut your body parts off and, stuff like that. I was not being nasty to him. And I was asking him. And in a way, I almost lapsed into a bit of the old counseling thing from when I was in ministry, because I was talking privately to him. And I said, what's going on? I said, you don't have to tell me anything, but for your own peace of mind, find out what that emotional thing is that's driving you to the unhappiness. Because I said, I don't think transition is going to solve your problem. And it didn't go anywhere from there.
I mean, you have to be careful, especially with people when they're involving their self-identity. I mean, that's really a touchy subject,
Yeah.
When it comes to self-identity. And maybe he felt like at that point that, okay, you're already judging him for not being happy or not appearing to be happy or not understanding it. That
I would say that at a minimum, as Socrates said, know thyself.
Yeah.
And that people that are going through that type of really an undefined identity, they're trying to figure out who they are, so they don't know themselves. But the one thing that they're focusing on and expressing in the way that we see and go, well, there's must be something going on there. I mean, it doesn't take a lot to look at people and go, there's something going on there.
Yeah.
Because just about everybody's got something going on, right?
Everybody's got something going on.
But the ones that have, that take it to the physical extremes, I mean, you have to go, are you sure you really want to do this?
Right.
I mean, is your mind, the identity in your mind, that powerful that you are going to mangle yourself and try to make your physical body conform to your mental image of what you think that you want to be?
And I don't know if I took it that far with him, because I wasn't trying to tell him what to do, but I did say something to the effect of, do you really think that transitioning is going to be the cure for what makes you unhappy? Is it all about gender identity, or are there other things going on?
It really needs to be about who you are, being yourself. You don't have to change your biology in order to be an effeminate male and live as that female perception that you have, that you think you're missing. I mean, men have been doing that for centuries.
Hell yeah.
Millennia. And it depends on the society and the culture. Some totally dug it, some didn't, and lots of stuff in between. But the bottom line is that it's only, in our last 150 years of science and medicine that this would even have been possible. Right.
Yes.
And that alone is, I can see the allure of that for those that are totally committed and have that sense of that is their mission. And I understand that feeling. That's one of the most powerful experiences we can have as humans, is that when you get on that mission and you are on it, it consumes your being, and it's awesome, particularly if you get it. It's awesome anyway, just because the endorphin rush, right?
Yep. And Beth Kirkham just said, if that's what they want to do, then it's nobody's business. I agree with that.
That's right. Yeah.
None of my business. I only had this conversation with this guy because he came at me and thought I was being negative about him in a private conversation. I said, no. I said, I am frankly a little concerned about where you're at. Do you want to go through, as Professor just said, do you want to go through with this kind of a thing, the body mutilation, for lack of a more positive word? Do you want to go through that and find out that's not the source of your unhappiness? I said, maybe you need to, I think before, and I think doctors would be very responsible doing this, to say, they have somebody come in that wants gastric bypass. What do they want to see first? They generally want to see that you're going to be committed to doing what it takes to make that work. They'll put you through, I want to see you lose 50 pounds on your own over the next 2 months. And if you can do that and show me you're dedicated to the diet, you're dedicated to this, then we can proceed. That type of a thing. I would think that there should be a hell of a lot of counseling, and maybe there is already, and I just don't know that, but a hell of a lot of counseling for somebody who wants to transition that way before they put them under the scalpel and say, look, make sure, it'd be almost like saying, I'm not going to operate on you. I'm not going to change your sex physically if you don't know where you're at emotionally.
Just like the Me Too movement, my body, my choice. You got to be careful what you ask for from the standpoint of being the key in that whole thing is, what are you asking for and why are you asking it? What is that question that's driving you to the information that you are pursuing to go do this? And have you vetted as much as you can? Because this is you don't go back. Okay. You go.
Okay, it would be, well, let's say, now I'm going to use a very absurd illustration to illustrate my point. So don't go apeshit, anybody. Let's say I started identifying and say, I was born as a human male, but I really think I'm a seal. And so I want to have my arms and legs removed, or I want to have my arms removed and put fake flippers on me and sew my legs together and add a fin at my feet. If I wanted to do that surgery, why is that any different than someone saying, I believe I'm actually a female when I was born a male, so I want to cut my junk off and do this? But we wouldn't do it for the guy who wants to be a SEAL, but that's the way he identifies. What if he comes up being absolutely coherently, emotionally sound, but he believes he's a SEAL and he wants to have the surgery? Is that his choice, his body, his choice? Is it all up to, can you find a surgeon that would actually do that for you?
I was just going to say, how ironic is that with the whole cake thing?
Right.
I mean, and if there be surgeons, would he sue the surgeons because they wouldn't do it?
Yeah. They wouldn't perform my SEAL surgery.
Yeah.
And if he did do it, what would the public's reaction be to the doctor who would mutilate a human being that way? Would the argument just simply be, well, it's his body, his choice, and he paid me big money to do it? I don't know. And that's another thing. The money issue is, a lot of people in this community think they shouldn't have to pay for that out of their pocket because it is a genuine medical or psychological, emotional disorder that causes them to need to have this change. So it should be covered by their insurance. And the insurance company goes, I don't think so. That's elective. So what do you do from there?
Well, isn't the insurance company in the same position in that scenario that the cake maker was?
Yeah.
Now it went from to the ones just before, and now it's at the insurance, and the insurance is going, well, we're not going to cover this. Like, well, you're discriminating. You can just sue your ass all the way up the line and try to take out 2 or 3 institutions, simply because you have made a decision in your mind that the image you have in your mind is what you must do to yourself physically.
Yes.
And I just
No.
find that's major balls.
For me,
No pun intended.
that just clicked. For me, totally different issue. But my wife, a few months back, got me this. What is it? This very not cheap tattooing kit, so I could learn how to tattoo. And I think I'd be pretty good at it, frankly. And we were just talking about it today. She said, you haven't had time. You haven't taken any time to learn that yet. Maybe you should do that. She said, I'm seeing all these tattoo art. Everybody we know that tattoos has lines 2 miles long and a year out. So she said, maybe you should do that. It'd be something you'd be good at and you can make a lot of money at it. But the reason I bring that up, what if a tattoo artist says, I am not going to tattoo that on your skin?
Exactly.
What if, and I know we're just beating the dead horse a little bit.
Well,
now,
but
let's say
it's analogous across the board.
Let's say
it doesn't matter. Pick it.
Let's say you got what if you have a Jewish baker to bake wedding cakes and you got a neo-Nazi come in and say, I want a wedding cake with Hitler on the top and Nazis and my wife and I standing next to him, little figurines. What if the Jewish baker says, I'm not going to do that? Fuck off.
Where does it end?
Where does it end? Where do you draw the line on that? And so it has to be defined as to what's actual discrimination and what isn't.
Well, see, that's evidence to my point I was making earlier that I think that this is imploding on itself. Some of these things are so ridiculous, and there's so many of them at the same time. I mean, it's like a cacophony of crap been put in the cauldron, and they're just stirring this thing up, keeping the heat on high. And it's like, I think it can't. They can't keep doing it and being so blatantly bad at it. Without either, again, it'll implode on itself, or people they'll protest by not participating.
Yes.
And that is probably one of the most important things, is especially on a daily basis, don't participate in all of this hoo-ha being flung around. It's wild. It's fun to watch if you can do it from a spectator perspective.
Yes.
And I've been doing more and more of that and enjoying it more and more. And at the same time, with there's dozens of what the fucks every day.
Yeah.
And that cannot be not entertaining.
No. By the way, I'm starting to get a complex. Oh, go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I got nothing. It was a stupid thing.
Okay. No, it's at this point, it's like watching a train wreck.
Yes.
It's and you're just right, like the past 10 years or so. I mean, I feel like it's just been bombarded with a lot of unnecessary things, where you're not focusing on the things that we need to focus on, and getting bogged down by all this extra stuff that's going on. And to say what I think it was Grumpy Stackwood said something down there about the kids getting tattoos on their faces. I mean, you should. I mean, there has to be at least some systems in place, because like we were talking earlier, the mental health issue is big. I mean, even to this day, in how advanced we've come in society, therapy has a lot of stigma. I mean, even at this point, I think everybody, even people I encounter in the office and everything, I say everybody needs therapy.
Oh yeah.
At this point, I mean, not just for having extreme views or anything. I mean, just to kind of,
I need massage therapy. That's what I need.
Right.
And you live with a masseuse.
I live with a masseuse. She's 20 years in. How many massages do you think I get?
Have you had 2?
Hey,
let's see. Maybe over the course of the last 17 years.
I think I've given her more
massages
massages
bring
than
her
you've
work
got.
home with you.
Yeah, that's bringing her work home.
I know a magic trick.
What's
I
the
can
magic
turn
trick?
I can turn a back rub into a mortgage and 2 kids.
Oh, I'll bet you can. I did.
I know because it happened.
I did.
But I mean,
Yeah.
even with like the case of kids, I mean, there's like certain things like, like being able to have alcohol and stuff. There's a reason why the average age is supposed to be for 21, because up until that point, a person's, a kid's or a person's frontal lobe is not developed enough to the point to being considered a quote unquote adult. So, I mean, there's psychological, there's physiological, there's psychological aspects, and
There's certainly not enough experience or life prior to having those responsibilities, right? Because
Right.
you can't. That if you look at, I don't want to get off on this tangent. I'll just say this: if the curriculums were focused on teaching music, math, personal economics, how to fix things, bring back shop class, please.
Yes.
And doing some kind of sport, right? Some athletic type thing. Those four things need to be the core to everything that's taught. And there's enough depth, and you can do history and language and all these other things, but you'll get that just by studying music, math, and economics, and being able to, balance a checkbook, but in the current balance your wallet, right? But the point is none of those skills, those are just fundamental things that are needed in order for you to be at a minimum a neutral participant in society. Hopefully you're not a negative participant, and most importantly, if you're hopefully looking to improve yourself to have a more positive experience in the society that you're in. Well, all of those things are required in the society that you're in, but the people it's like they've been farmed and then let out of the back of the truck and dumped out, and they're running around going, well, I need one of these. Yep, got that. Oh, I can do this. Okay. But they have zero understanding of what it means to be themselves, to maintain their identity, however times they change it, and most importantly, their sovereignty, which means taking care of your shit so that you've got enough of what it takes to make you happy and to flourish. You are now supposed to be out there, getting it wet and finding out what it is, if you haven't already got some kind of notion that you want to do. But it takes doing to do that. And you need those fundamentals in order to function well enough to go pursue what the hell it is you want to do. Yeah. Unless you got a sugar daddy or a sugar mama or some kind of sugar situation where you don't have to worry about it, and that people are doing it for you.
The doctor said no sugar.
Hey, Paige Rockwell.
No sugar tonight in my coffee. Oh.
That's right. No sugar tonight in my tea.
I agree with that, because even the next generation out, as I'm getting older and everything, they don't know how to do anything, and it's like they don't know how to basically function, and then that's how you're ending up with all these Facebook and TikTok hacks and all that. Oh, I know how to do this. I learned how to do this off of TikTok, and it's like, this should be basic 101. Like, the hacks that they show are not actually hacks. It's like actually learning the skill.
How to tie a shoe.
Yeah, how to YouTube how to tie a shoe, or even some things that they try to pass off as cooking, which actually isn't. I mean, stuff out there, it looks like it's still raw. I mean,
that's right.
Pasta with sauce and then putting it in the oven and assuming that it comes out half raw. They're going, I mean, it's like, you have to.
I'm just going to say, Amanda, you need to call in. We're almost done with the show. You should call in. I want you to send us off in Australian. So she might not have seen when I typed that to her in the chat room. Call in. And I sent the link.
So, and one of the things and this is what's great about time, is that the more time you got, the more information you get, therefore you get more knowledge, right?
Yes.
This
Exactly.
whole thing with the student loans is just is a perfect example
It's
of
predatory. I mean,
well, it's a perfect example of taking a situation, crafting a narrative around it, and selling it only in one direction, right?
Yep.
The fact that where this debt has incurred from are these colleges, universities, and institutions, right? They have these tens of billions of dollar endowments. They are constantly raising their prices faster than the current what they put out as the inflation rate. And apparently, though, the product that they sold these kids who signed these agreements, these loans to pay this money back, apparently there wasn't any vetting done on what the opportunity was going to be once you had that stamped piece of paper. Because you paid 50, 60, $100,000 for a stamped piece of paper that says you do something, liberal arts or whatever they may be. And there's so many of the bizarre ones that have showed up in the last decade or so, have just blown my mind. But you apparently the quality of the product, the literally the institutions, the college, university, whatever, they were culpable in knowing that the loan that they were approving for said recipient was not something that they were going to be able to pay back, because there was no value in it other than what the institution asked for its cost, who set the price. So they say it's 70,000. Well, actually, what you're going to learn, and that's just the tuition, you got to deal with all the living and all the expenses and so forth. So you're talking about a lot of money for how many years? Well, whatever that stamped piece of paper is, apparently doesn't have any value or the perceived value in the marketplace. And they knew that. My supposition is they knew that when they put those things in and jacked the prices. So that, I mean, you can certainly
that point I don't agree with, because with the way jobs are and the demands of of getting a good, what is considered a good and proper job. Nowadays a basic Bachelor of Science degree is like the equivalent of what high school is 50 years ago. So I mean, just to be able to put into that marketable area of where people are looking to hire and all that, you have to have a higher degree. You have to have at least
but what I'm saying is,
it's like holding people ransom. I mean, how are people supposed to people supposed to acquire and raise wealth? You
don't need a degree, a stamped piece of paper to do that anymore, and it's been that way for a while. But the narrative has been, you've got to have X number pieces of paper stamped by so and so's on such and such, and that model is completely crumbling, because people now have. In fact, most of the really forward-looking tech companies that I'm familiar with, they're hiring people simply on talent stack. They're hiring them on skills. They're hiring them on, I want to, can you do this right here? Yeah, I can do that, and I can do this, this, and that. And all they do is show them. The background is just like, okay, it's like you're not a murderer from some other country. And that's been going on since about the mid 2010 and 2010s in that area. But my point is the change is, that's what I was saying, I think the other night, was I think what we're going through is we keep hearing about this big, massive wealth transfer. What we're actually going through is a knowledge transfer. And people are starting to find out, that they're starting to realize that a lot of the things that people have been talking about for a while, a decade or more, are coming around, and they're going, well, that looks like that's probably kind of what you were talking about, right?
Check, see if you.
Oh, Dave's
Yep.
got some.
And so when you see these things,
Hey, Barbie D.
and people have been talking about them for a while, you start connecting more dots, and it starts becoming, at least the future is based on the directionality and the trajectory of wherever it's going. It's a lot easier to kind of look at it and go, that's not going to end well, but we're all going to go through it. And so how are we going to hang on and go through it so that we get on the other side and we can take advantage of some really amazing stuff that is just on the other side of this shit storm we're going through.
I think
Don't buy a catamaran. It says, there's your answer.
Yeah. I think it's the same cannibalistic cycle that we were talking about earlier. We're going to go through that through education and all that. Because it's like you were saying, the big top tech companies, Apple, Amazon, these were people who, did college or left college and they made it. I mean, the small percentage that they did make it, but they, built it out of their garage, right?
Well, they didn't have a stamped piece of paper.
Yeah.
And that's with the companies that we're seeing now.
Facebook,
the amount,
all that
once
stuff.
the internet got enough ubiquity and people started getting access to knowledge, there was a whole bunch more people that had those kind of ambitions, creative ideas, curiosities, imagination that are now plugged into that same paradigm. And there's amazing development, invention, innovation. I mean, Musk is like the poster boy for the whole innovation thing. He doesn't invent anything. He might invent aspects of his innovations, but all he's done is innovate. Everything he's done, cars, moles, satellites, what's the Neuralink? That's all technology that was there. He just took it all and upgraded it.
Yeah.
He innovated it and made it to where now it's kind of like, but that's the point, is you don't need the established academic paper punch to have enormous success in whatever it is that you want to do. The difference now is that we went through a period through the 70s, 80s, and probably about the first part of the 90s where things were so good, people really didn't think about having to go have a think about something. It was like you were getting used to all these new niceties and Walkmans, all the way to CD players, and everything just kept getting better and more convenient. Sure. And there was kind of a malaise, I think, that kind of happened where people kind of went, yeah, I'm not going to have to think about some of this stuff as much as I used to. And the best example is remembering phone numbers. Back in the 80s and 90s, I knew all the important phone numbers off the top of my head.
Yeah, me too. Just rattle them out.
Now I don't need to know them. I know probably the 5 top, but if I had to call one of them without my phone, and I couldn't remember their name or remember the number.
Yeah.
So just an example of some of the
less you have to use your brain, the less you're going to be able to use it.
Yeah, it's just you get you get lazy, you get comfy, and not having to think about things like that. You can redirect them to other things so that you can maybe pursue stuff. But my point was that we've gotten away from some of the just fundamentals of how we do things as who we are as an individual.
Right.
And those skills are really important.
Yeah, it's like the evolution of developing a lack of neuroplasticity.
Exactly.
Having the ability to orient, even just to orient
That's
yourself.
My problem, neuroplasticity.
Right. But
Damn
like
rabbit.
Back in the day, people used to use the Rand McNally maps versus now we have GPS and we can get where we're going, and you don't get lost.
It's like you don't need to buy those. What were they? They cost like, at the time, like the last one I got was like $25 or $30 for those little spiral bound. They were about that thick, the map books.
Yeah.
And you could look anything up. Hudson maps. Yep. Well, I've got to look at my Hudson map to find the way out of this show tonight. And I think this is it. What a segue that was. Wow. Guys, it's 11:10.
You might have to record that one for future use.
I may have to, lest I forget it.
Yeah.
I can just hit the button and it'll automatically play.
Hit the button.
So, guys, I want to thank you for being in here with me. I could go a lot longer if I didn't get up at 4:00 this morning. So I'm just about out of juice.
Yeah, I got to get up at 4 tomorrow.
But I'm still sharp. I only missed the mute button once tonight.
Are you going to be roasting a whole animal, Dave?
We've got pork and mutton, I think, and
rabbits.
There's supposed to be rabbits.
Hassenfepper.
Yeah, we're doing a rabbit stew.
I like the rabbits, Dave. The pink ones and the green ones and the yellow ones. I would love them and hold them and hug them and make them my very own.
Call them George.
Call them George. If all of you remember what that references to.
Oh yeah.
No, it's not George. Of Mice and Men, but it was a parody of Mice and Men. So fit a whole.
All right, everybody. Would you guys have a great weekend?
All.
You too, Professor. Good to see you. Thanks for being here, brother.
My pleasure. Great to be with everyone as usual. Have a great weekend.
You too.
All right, you too.
Yeah, I'm out too, so everybody take care and stay safe.
Sarah, you too. Have a fun weekend. See you later.
See ya.
And Uncle
you find
Dave?
Your boots?
Nope. They're just I have a deep set fear that they accidentally got pitched somehow. Which is just very sad. They're either they got the boot section folded and wrapped up and shoved in a tub somewhere, and I've just missed them because I'm not thinking they would be in there. So
look in everything.
Sam's coming over tomorrow
for these hoods today, and found them in a tub that I had no idea how they got in there.
See, Sam is coming over today, and we're going through everything. We're going to pull the whole garage apart. You've seen it. We're going to pull the whole thing apart and go through every single tub and box. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot when you just say, well, there's like 35 tubs and 50 boxes with all kinds of loose shit all over it. The problem is that they're all stacked up like 5 high, 7 columns against the wall, then all the boxes, then it's all the loose stuff gets thrown on top. And then
I can't imagine anyone would have thrown them.
I can't, neither can Rainey. That's why she thought you might have had them. She said, didn't Dave borrow some? I said, I know he borrowed a red coat, but I can't
have the red coat, but I don't have any boots.
Yeah. Oh, and I found my missing red coat. He was in the box with a couple of other doublets.
Yeah, I have the old one.
Amanda, if you're talking to us, wait, what? Dave and I are talking about something personal that has nothing to do with the radio show or any of you.
But you can still call in
with us. What's that?
She could still call in.
She can
and
still
send us off with her lovely Australian.
She said her internet's not going to handle it. You can try it, Amanda. You can give it a shot. You don't even have to come on visually. I just want to hear you're Australian. Yeah, I'm talking about a pair of boots.
Sounds surprisingly like English. It does.
It's Australian. It's crikey. I can say that. Crikey. I'm going surfing.
That's not said as much as people think it is.
So, where you put them, mate? That's Amanda. You know, Amanda, the last time I actively wore these boots, they were my festival boots. If you've seen some of the pictures on my Facebook, they were the knee-high bucket boots, decorative stuff done on the top. Dave built the boot for me, the big long black leather boot, and then another friend of ours who's a leather worker did the I don't know what you call it, the ornamentation. So yeah, there you go. And I had these boots when I was last at festival was 2007. And so that's how many years ago is that? That's 15 years ago.
Easily.
Now those boots,
Easily.
they had built-in garters with a buckle. So you would wrap it around the boot and buckle it, this little strap, and it would keep them up. And so I had a red leather garter that was in the service of His Majesty or something like that hung from
one of the prince's men.
And I was one of the prince's men. And I wasn't going to get into all that, Dave, but now I was going to be modest. No, but I had those boots and I had them strapped together, hanging on a hook in my garage, on the side of a bookshelf in my garage.
That's the last place I saw them.
That's where they hung for many years. And every now and again, and you know what? It still had festival dust on them, so I didn't polish them very much. But sometimes one time I took them down and I oiled the uppers, to make sure they were still
that way the kids
and
are calling it nowadays.
And the last time I used those boots I was out there with a group, 10 Seconds on Harmony, that I was part of, and we went out just to visit one day in costume, and that had to be. It was before I had the heart surgery, the year before. So I think it was 2016, summer of 2016 was the last I had worn them.
You didn't loan them to Zach, did you?
What?
You didn't loan them to Zach, did you?
I asked Bryn, and she was pretty sure I hadn't.
Okay.
So I remember they hung on the hook in the garage right after that. That was 2016.
The last place I saw him was hanging on your garage wall with your sword frog.
And which house did you see that in?
That is a good question. I thought it was in the last house. But,
the garage in the last house.
And that was hanging up towards the front, towards the garage door. I wonder if you left the garage open and somebody pilfered them.
Who's going to come in? Oh, a pair of boots. When there's so much other stuff in there. So here's the thing, is that back, 4 years ago now, I went to Utah and Wyoming working with the roofing company. And that was August of 4 years ago, 2018. And we had to put everything in storage, in a big storage garage, waiting for our townhome to come available. They were building it still. And so Rainey had to move everything by herself with help while I was in Utah working into the new place. And she called me and she said, disheartening. Everything had mold on it. Like the sofa had mold. Now, it wasn't the creeping, big, black, bulky mold. It was just like the white, dusty mold.
Mildew. It's called mildew.
And she said, she didn't specifically say this at this time, but she moved everything into the house. Then I was back in December of 2018. And a couple of times I've said, where are those boots? And so over the last 4 years, there's a couple of times I've looked for them and I can't find them. She said, well, I took them out of my sword frog. That's the sword belt with I had a sword hanger on it.
They're not with the tam o'hare stuff at the lodge, are they?
No, that wasn't there. I found the tam o'hare mask and the red coat in one of my tubs here.
Oh.
So that wasn't at the lodge. And I didn't bring those to the lodge anyway. So I've spent the last 4 years a couple of times going, I'm bothered. Where did those boots go? And I said, you didn't throw them out, did you? Because they had mold on them. It was just that dusty mildew. Because the sword belts were there. This ornate hanger with the Tudor rose on it. That was my sword hanger. And no, I didn't throw that. I got those. The sword hangers are there, which hung right with the boots. But the boots are gone.
Well, if you find a little bit of vinegar on a cloth, we'll take that right off.
Yeah. Well, she said, I wouldn't have thrown them out. She said, and I wouldn't have put them in with something that didn't have the mildewy mold on it. And she said, I would have put them in something all by themselves or with something else that was molded. And I said, well, so now, folks, I have been for 4 years off and on looking for those. Now, my son would like to use them with a costume I'm loaning him for next weekend. As a matter of fact, I'll show you something. Sit still. Dave, entertain the guests.
Oh. Is that entertaining enough? Yeah, I'm doing a Viking thing tomorrow, and I'm not really ready for it. I was going to finish some sewing tonight, but I have no electricity. They don't have 220 here, and my generator won't start for some reason.
Okay.
So, very frustrating.
Now, you guys see this? This is a doublet I had made for me for the Renaissance.
Green and gold, very beautiful.
I love this. And it was actually very green. It was like a Viking or Packers football team green. And so, if I can get my hand in there, it's got all
Don't rip your slashing.
There you go. So, Sam is going to use this doublet.
Still fit. I'm amazed.
So, yeah, it does fit. You know, the one that didn't fit was my princely doublet. So this will all button up. It's got like 20 buttons going up. And then the sword belt goes around about here, and the tights, and then the big black leather boots. And so this is the coat. And this was made for me about 17 years ago. So I look at these. They've been hanging in closets or in boxes. And I pull them out and I go, these are still gorgeous. And the leather is still supple. This is all leather. It's satin lined. And I get the frilly collar, but then I wear my shirt open. So it just opens with the frill, and you'll see the white shirt through all the slashing in the sleeve and all of that. So this is the one that I am loaning to Sam for next weekend. And that's the only reason I was looking for the boots. How's that for a long story? I was looking for the boots, and I can't find the boots. Rainey doesn't know where the boots are. She's the one who moved them from the storage locker, but she said I didn't do anything weird with them. I put them in a box. And one of the tubs, I think a tub, maybe it was a box, maybe it was a bag. My only fear is this, is that they may have gotten put in a plastic bag because she felt they were moldy, and somebody else pitched them. That's all I can think, because I have not seen them since they were supposedly moved back into our home from the storage locker. So, as far as I know. So that's not going to be a. So Sam went ahead and did buy some boots. I got some comp tickets through Jimmy Cunningham for them. They're going out next weekend. And I said, why don't you take that money you're saving for buying tickets and buy some boots? So he got a pretty good pair of boots coming in. Cheap, but they look good. They'll serve the purpose. So anyway, hang on. Is that like a firefighter? What? Says Amanda. Oh, a smoke jumper. Yeah. So that's what that conversation was all about, guys. So there you have it.
All right. Well, I am going to try and solve my electrical problem, so I'm going to let you go.
You know what? I'm going to let you go because I'm going to sign off. Have a good night, Dave.
Be good, everyone. Do something
Love
good
you,
for
brother.
somebody.
See you later. All right, guys. That's it. We're done. So we're going to get out of here. Thanks for sticking around and for the captain's cabin. And thanks for your time. And that's all I got. I'm going to get off of here and relax. So you know what? Live long and prosper.